the shift in the language has to be one of a language of rights. I mean, we have to talk about hak and adhikar and not so much about Garib Kalyan and so on. Or even before we talk about the impact of the pandemic on hunger and nutrition, we have to recognize that the situation was not too great even before 2020 March. For instance, the National Family Health Survey 5, which brought out its report for 22 states, which was based on the survey done in 2019, showed that we were already falling back on our progress in malnutrition compared to 5 years back. In that context, we've had the pandemic, and after the national lockdown, there have been a number of studies which have shown that because of the economic distress and the high unemployment that the lockdowns caused, that even till the end of 2020, most of the studies show that about 2/3 of the people who are included in these surveys respond saying that they're eating poorer quality and less quantity food than they were pre-pandemic. Then, of course, we've had the second wave. We don't have any representative data after the second wave, but we know that the second wave extended to rural areas also this time, and also that the health expenditure burden was much higher, especially on the poor, because there were many more people affected this time. Based from our field experience, we do know that the situation of food insecurity continues. We're seeing more reports of people eating lesser food, not being able to eat enough times during the day, reducing the quality of food that they eat, and so on.
What are some of the biggest exclusionary areas with ONR coming in and with tech being introduced? Do we have old problems showing itself in new faces with the PDS system right now?
So the public distribution system, which is the main and the biggest intervention that the government does towards household food security, and under that, 75% of rural population and 50% of urban population on an average across India are supposed to get these priority ration cards under which they get subsidized rice and wheat. This has been the platform through which the government has also responded through COVID. So last year as well as this year, they announced that those who fall under the net of this PDS will get an additional 5 kgs of food grains per head for free. This has been very useful, we found, for people who have ration cards. But like you said, there are a number of exclusions. The National Food Security Act says cover 2/3 of the population. The government currently uses the population estimates of Census 2011 to give these cards, based on which about 80 crore beneficiaries are identified. Estimates suggest that if you use the population projection figures for 2021, then at least 10 crore more people will be added. Of course, there is the exclusion of those because of various things. The main reason being lack of documents to be able to prove citizenship as well as residency, where many migrants would also fall. In this scenario where you have a number of people who are outside the PDS net but still require food security support, that's where the exclusion comes in. The response of the government has been that they've introduced the One Nation, One Ration Card scheme, and that those who are left out will now be included under the ONOR. But that's where, again, linking to what I said earlier, we need to understand that the ONOR works only for those who already have ration cards and where those cards and their names have been seeded onto the Aadhaar platform. It's only those who, say, a person from UP who has a ration card from UP and that card is Aadhaar seeded, is working in Delhi, and the shop that he goes to in Delhi has a point of sale device that's working and his fingerprints match, only then you will get the ONOR benefits.
तो आपका जो राशन लेने के लिए पोस्ट मशीन पे अंगूठा लगाते हैं, उस पे निशान नहीं आया?
नहीं आया।
तो दुकानदार ने क्या बोला?
दुकानदार ने क्या बोला कि तुम्हारे वहाँ किलो का 8 है, तुमको नहीं मिलेगा।
अच्छा।
कि भाई साहब मुझे नहीं मिलेगा तो मैं क्या खाऊंगी?
और अंगूठा 2 बार हमारा लगा, 1 बार लड़की का लगा और हमारे को राशन नहीं मिला।
The number of interstate migrants accessing ONR is very small. It's like less than 20,000 in a month. Because the public health problem is so much more stark this time. We've seen that the kind of attention that was given to food and nutrition last time, which was also delayed and not enough. But even that much is not being done this time, because there is no national lockdown, and the feeling is that the system seems to be overwhelmed by the health crisis.
How can we reimagine the language of provisioning? Is there a sort of language change that the state can adopt, be it through its messaging and provisioning, but also through the larger policies that Poshan and Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana adopt, which are slightly paternalistic and top-down?
The shift in the language has to be one of a language of rights. I mean, we have to talk about hak and adhikar, and not so much about Garib Kalyan and so on, or even having to thank people for free vaccines. These are rights, and like you said, the money is not coming out of anybody's pocket. It is what the citizens of this country have contributed. It's a democracy, and these are basic rights in any democracy. India has a right to life with dignity. We have directive principles which lay these out to be the state's responsibility towards its people. And that's how it should be seen, not just by the state, by people also. And that's what campaigns like the Right to Food campaign try to do, saying that it's not like we are one small set of people asking for some charity. It is demanding accountability from the state, which is towards these things which are the basic premise of a welfare state, of a democratic state in this time. So I think it's about hak and adhikar. That is the language that is.
What are some of the basic demands of the Right to Food campaign that we can maybe list out for our viewers?
Firstly, what we are saying is that India does have a strong institutional framework to provide food entitlements, largely through the National Food Security Act. So to strengthen them would be our first demand. So what would that entail? It would entail universalizing the PDS and including pulses and oils in the PDS. Currently, it gives only food grains. In all states, there is a toll-free number that you're supposed to be able to call and complain. But we found that it doesn't work. You either don't get through. Even if you get through, it's like a recorded message. It's not that they take up your individual complaint and they follow it through. They'll give you standard stock answers like when you call a mobile phone company. The second would be taking a life cycle approach, activating the Anganwadi services, where currently there is some amount of take-home rations given twice a month, but enhancing the quality given the situation, including eggs and so on in that, and also reviving the other services of ICDS like growth monitoring, nutrition and so on. Enhancing school meals, including a breakfast. This again would be important, both given that there's been a nutrition fallback over the last year. Also, children have dropped out from schools, so it's a good way to bring them back as well. The whole issue of urban poor has been highlighted like never before through these lockdowns. So one is the availability of cooked food in urban areas, and we saw that in small periods when governments did this, these were very useful. If they could even be for a small price, and some kind of an urban employment guarantee as well. That the government currently is the biggest hoarder. It's sitting on 110 millions of food grain stocks, 110 millions of rice, wheat and paddy sitting in the Food Corporation of India stocks. So we did not have a production problem because of COVID, but we are just not distributing it. And the political economy of not distributing it is that when you distribute it, then it's counted as subsidy and it comes into your fiscal deficit. As long as you're storing it, then that's in your inventory. It is not coming into your budget books. But at this kind of a time, is this what, who is the state accountable to? And what is this whole thing of trying to pretend that your fiscal deficit is something, when in actuality it's something else? This is, I think, it is immoral, I would say, to have hungry people and to have these overflowing go downs and not doing anything about it.